To our live guests and to our virtual guests at home, in the office, great that you are here. It's our third LGBT plus event, LGBT plus in business event. In Cologne we say after 2 times it's a tradition, after 3 times it's Brauchtum. I tried to translate it into English, it's not possible, but it means that it's even stronger than tradition. So we are now stronger than tradition with this event. I think that's a good start for today. I'm excited to come together to talk about the importance of diversity, tolerance, and inclusion in the working environment. I would like to introduce myself. Together with Annika, I'm the host for tonight. My name is Jochen Schönfelder. I'm a senior partner in our Cologne office. During the last 4 years, I led the Cologne office also. In that time, we had the idea to initiate this event here also. In the meantime, I lead our practice area for transformation, where we deal with value creation, transformation, restructuring situations, so far away from the topics of tonight, but also, on the other hand, very close to the topics of tonight, because it's also about change. I'm really happy to be here with you. I'm here as an ally who cares about providing a work environment where every employee feels valued, appreciated, and comfortable, because I think this is the only way people can develop and unfold their full potential. And maybe just one story, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was at one of the top universities in Germany for a recruiting event, and I was standing behind the stage. I was prepared with the microphone, and one of the great students which organized this event came to me and asked me if I'm nervous. And I told him, no, I'm actually not, because first of all, I'm standing in front of large crowds here and there in the office at clients, but also because I'm standing at the crowd here and in our virtual event, our LGBT plus event. And he said, wow, you are doing an LGBT plus event. I said, yes, sure, we're doing it because it's important. And I found it quite interesting because it was the only thing he was asking me and he wanted to talk about with me. It was not the business perspective and the recruiting and the career perspective, but it was about that BCG is offering this event, we are doing this for the 3rd time, and that we want to create an atmosphere and an environment where young people actually can live like they are and like they want to be. Coming back to BCG, in our Out at Work Barometer, we surveyed nearly 9,000 participants on LGBT plus inclusion. And one of the findings is that the first year is crucial, the first year at job is crucial for coming out at work. And I think that's super important for all of us, and that's why open communication and power to empower is important. At BCG, we've set ourselves the goal of having at least 5% of our employees from the LGBT plus community by 2025. Although it's hard to measure, we are unable to really measure it, it's important for us to have that goal, to formulate it both towards ourselves, towards BCG, but towards the outer world as well. But Kushal from BCG will tell you more about this later. In order to create awareness for those who are socially considered minorities, change must occur. And because changes are difficult to demand and implement, we as human beings often take role models to encourage us to do that, to implement change. And precisely those role models and their importance is what we want to discuss today with our great guests, both here in the room and online. So I'm really happy to having you all here. And I'm looking forward to exciting, insightful, and perhaps also surprising conversations. But before we start, I'd like to hand over to Annika.
Thank you very much, Jochen. A warm welcome also from my side. We're very pleased that you take the time today to be with us here today. And I'm very much looking forward to our exchange. But before we start with the discussion and the content, just a little bit about myself as well. I'm Annika Zawatzki, a managing director and partner. I've been with BCG for 8 years. I am a core member of our public sector and infrastructure practice area, and I have to say, I am super, super proud to be part of a company that really drives diversity, equity, and inclusion, and does everything what they can do for our Pride community. Pride at BCG is a very central part of our diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. It has been founded 20 years ago. As you can imagine, in the United States, it spans around the whole globe across our global presence, and it grows significantly. Our employees can join from the very, very start, openly, but sometimes still anonymously. It provides a platform for networking and exchange, and it supports its members, also me, I have to say, in development and growth. And that's exactly what we want to do today, provide a platform where we can exchange ideas, opinions, and perspectives, and contribute to change. And to this end, we have once again brought to our side PROUT at Work, our partner, where we want to provide this platform with. And I'm very, very happy to welcome Albert Kehrer, who is the director and co-founder of the PROUT at Work-Foundation. And Albert will talk about how role models can affect the lives of LGBTQI+ people, also me. And he will talk about a wonderful book, Rainbow Generation, and for which I had the pleasure and the honor to do an interview for. Furthermore, I would really like to welcome another special guest of our event. It's Holger Volland. Holger is the CEO of Brand 1 Medien AG and a real and active supporter of the LGBTQI+ community. Great to have you here again, the second time. So next time, it's the third time, and it will be tradition. But before I hand over to you, Holger, we would like to share a message with you, with our first commissioner, for the acceptance of sexual and gender diversity of the federal government of Germany, Sven Lehmann.
Good evening to all of you. Unfortunately, I cannot join you in person today to talk to you about the importance of role models. What I can say is that role models for me are all our lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, intersexual and queer friends who live openly in this society. And as the first ever queer commissioner of the federal government of Germany for sexual and gender diversity, my special concern is that every person in this society can live equally and secure and free in the society. The German government has itself the goal of guaranteeing the protection of all people regardless of their sexual or gender identity in accordance with Germany's constitution and finally fully enforcing fundamental rights of transgender, intersex and non-binary people. I will also bring to government this year the first government's action plan for sexual and gender diversity. With this action plan, we want to decisively counteract queer hostility and promote the acceptance of LGBTIQ persons in all areas in Germany. It will set the federal government agenda for a policy of respect. We plan to adopt the action plan before the end of this year. I am eager to hear your ideas and suggestions on how we can contribute to making every employer feel like they belong and can be their true selves at work. I wish you an exciting evening with lots of inspiration, and I'm really looking forward to your results. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much to that message from Sven, and also thanks for the warm welcome, Annika and Jochen. It's a pleasure to be here. One says this, right? But for me, it's a real pleasure to be here. And I have two reasons for that. One is a professional reason. I'm coming from Brand 1 magazine, Brand 1 Medien AG, and we're an economic magazine focusing on two things, transformation and value creation. So what we're talking about today is, of course, transformation, because there's so many companies still out there where a welcoming culture to all kinds of people, especially to LGBT+ people, is not common. So we need that transformation. And value creation, why? Because only someone who's truly themselves can really flourish in their organization and can create best value for them. And the second reason why I'm really happy to be here is because I'm an openly gay man and I try to be a supporter and I try to be a role model myself. So being able to be here tonight and moderating this evening is a huge pleasure for me. Without further ado, I'd like to start with our first speaker. Albert Kehrer is director and co-founder of the PROUT at Work-Foundation. He also founded and runs a consulting firm after he worked for more than 2 decades in leadership and management roles for different companies. He has experience in diversity management for more than 15 years and talks about the rainbow generation and how role models affect LGBT people. Welcome, Albert, on stage.
So, hello everybody, and thanks very much for inviting me to this event. And Holger, what you didn't say, I'm also the co-author of a book which is called Generation Rainbow, we call it. And this is basically also the reason, we were seeing that there are not enough role models out there in society, and especially in the workplace, and that's why we wrote this book. And I want to give you a couple of facts about, why we need role models and how people could be a role model and what I expect from people to be a role model. One fact is that 30% of LGBTIQ people avoid talking openly about their sexual orientation in the professional environment. How comes? Why can't they be completely out at work? It's certainly something everybody decides themselves, but it has also to do with corporate culture. 4 out of 10 young LGBTIQ people deny their sexual orientation when talking to managers. Meaning the cost of thinking twice, all the energy they spend about hiding themselves is a waste of energy that they could put in the work, meaning they waste energy at the price of making a career at work. And the big challenge is we lack of role models in all industries and in all areas of society in the new workplace. LGBT people in senior positions are completely underrepresented. We have one quite senior person here with us from the business today, but when you look around, it's very hard to find them. And when we wrote this book, we have interviewed 26 senior people from all industries, and believe me, we contacted many, many more people, and most of them denied to be interviewed for the book. And what I personally believe, and it's the same with women in senior management, they should all take their responsibility to be out and proud and be a role model for others, especially for the younger ones. And at Proud at Work, we also publish every year lists of out executives and out people in small, medium businesses and whatsoever. And we reach out to so many people, and we quite often get the answer, I don't want to be reduced to my sexual orientation. I have so many career plans, I don't want to be on this list and all this stuff. And what kind of work culture do we provide in companies that people fear this could have a negative impact on their career? And I very much believe they should just stand up, be visible, be out and proud, and be a role model for junior people and younger people. The colors changed a little bit from my presentation, but anyway, and I hope you can read it. I found a fantastic quote from a study Stonewall did. Young people tell us they can imagine being successful when they see people like them succeeding. So the young people are looking for role models. They want role models to be out and proud because they want to have an orientation. Can they be out and proud? Can they make a career within a company when being out? And that's why we need LGBT people or LGBT role models, that they are visible, that they show you can be out and proud at work, and it does have not a negative effect on your career. How can someone be a role model? And I personally think it's quite easy. They should just be out and act confidentially and talk about their sexual orientation, about their partner, as a just normal or ordinary topic at work. Like straight people talk about their kids and their families. They should be proud and don't be afraid to be unique, to be reduced to their sexual orientation, because we are more than just gay people. We are also good managers, we are good colleagues and whatsoever. We are more than just gay people. They should be visible, meaning they should be talking about this at company events. When asked, being at events like this, like Tom now does today and all the others being on the panel later on, they should be visible for everybody, that people inside and outside of the company know there is someone out there who made the career, who is out and proud and didn't have a negative event on their career. And they should also be supportive for the LGBT people. Act as a mentor for the employee resource group or also for junior talents. Be an advisor, be a role model, tell people what they can do, connect them with other senior people. That's what I expect from someone who wants to be a role model, and that's what I believe is being a role model. That's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Albert. I forgot to tell you something. Now, this is an event where we take questions. So we take questions from the live audience here, but we also take questions from you over there on the web. Just ask your questions. I'll see them on the monitor here, and then I try to deliver them. Albert, there's one question regarding the book you just mentioned. Is there a special story or one story that comes to your mind that touched you personally the most from the book?
Well, all 26 stories are very unique and interesting stories to read, so that's the reason why you should buy this book. But there's one person, Angela Mattes, the former CEO of Baloise Liechtenstein. It's a trans person who I met right after she came out to her boss, the CEO of Baloise, but before she came out in the company. And that's very interesting, seeing her going through all this and developing, into a new role is probably the wrong wording, but into her true life, let's put it that way.
So I bought the book. I recommend it to you as well. It's a great book. It's great stories. Thank you very much, Albert Kehrer.
Thank you.
And for our next keynote, we're switching to someone on the screen. And I love to welcome Kushal Kandar from BCG. He's Global Pride Manager with BCG and also an active member of the Pride Network. And he's going to tell us about what happened in the last year with the 5% goal, for example, and other activities at Boston Consulting Group. Kushal, are you there? Yes, you are.
Great to be here. Thanks for the introduction. So hi everyone. I wish I could be there in person, but guess Zoom will have to do. But I'm here to talk to you about, how to master the rocky road to the pride aspiration. Yeah, and I guess all of you know about, last year BCG publicly declared an aspiration within Germany and Austria to reach about a 5% workforce ambition by 2025. So I'll talk about that and just broadly the network as well. And the things we're doing at BCG in relation to LGBTQ D&I. So before that, just building on the introduction that was given, my name is Kushal. I'm the Global Pride at BCG Manager. My pronouns are he, him, and I look after our global LGBTQ DE&I work as a full-time role. So without further ado, let's delve into content. The very fundamental first question is, why diversity? Why is this important, right? And of course, there is a very, very strong moral case for this. And oftentimes, the moral case itself is sufficient to start the conversation and activate action. But we also realize that there is a very, very strong economic case, and this tends to have a very strong impact in moving many conversations as well. So what we have seen is, in terms of diversity, firstly, there's 3 economic dimensions to look at. Firstly, the talent pool itself. So, high potential is completely independent of a person's background or gender identity, expression, sexual orientation, etc. Hence, if you're looking for high potential talent, it's important that you consider a diverse workforce and a pool to recruit from. The second thing is, through the various research we've done, we've also seen that diverse teams are more successful. People feel a lot more creative, a lot more productive. There is a lot more bonding within the team, and it leads to better innovative solutions for clients as well. So it also yields benefits in terms of teaming. And lastly, overall, clients are becoming more and more demanding of teams being diverse. And we can speak about this and attest to this as consultants as well. When we go to the market and sell projects, increasingly clients are demanding that we provide diverse case teams. And that again speaks to how important diversity is becoming with each passing day. So moving on, we often get asked this question about, do we actually need a network, or are we in a post-gay or post-LGBTQ world? And unfortunately, the answer is yes, we still need a network like an employee resource group, specifically for the LGBTQ community. While in the ideal world, I would love it if we did not have one. As of now, the value proposition is actually very, very true and very relevant. And maybe let me share just a few data points on this, right? So firstly, a lot of companies work across multiple countries. And there is a broader societal context at play, which is where the role of corporates becomes extremely important in providing the right inclusive culture within the 4 walls of the company. Secondly, even in companies and countries which are generally considered liberal, there's many members who actually choose to be confidential members or are reluctant to join the Pride network, or they're not out at the workplace. And in addition to this, we also have a lot of research more broadly for various countries that the prevalence of discrimination, microaggressions, etc., is still existing in the broader corporate atmosphere. And hence, the role of employee resource groups becomes extremely important, even in liberal countries and even in advanced companies. So we make sure we're contributing to the broader LGBTQ movement as well. So, what do we do at BCG? We are consultants, we love frameworks, and this framework is our Northern Star for Pride at BCG. So, we work across 6 dimensions as Pride at BCG, which is our LGBTQ diversity, equity, inclusion network. So the very base, we aim to recruit a diverse workforce from the LGBTQ community. So, we partner with various organizations. We have very specific LGBTQ recruiting events. And there's one specific event for all of Europe just happening next month in Cologne again. So we try and do all of these things to make sure that LGBTQ talent feel and get enough support to find their way into BCG. The next thing is the foundational needs. So, once you are working at BCG, it is our aim to provide to you a safe and secure environment. And this relates to psychological safety as well as physical safety. We often work in many countries where the broader societal and legal context is not very conducive for the LGBTQ community. So navigating these complex sensitivities and also making sure that the day-to-day work experience for various colleagues is inclusive and there's no subtle acts of microaggression. And every interaction that our colleagues have, be it with vendors or with clients or with other team members, is one that reinforces the idea of inclusion. I'm very happy to elaborate on that a bit more later in the session. Then if you move on to the middle layer of the pyramid, this is what we call affiliate. So one of the biggest things that we aspire to do is to build community and affinity and affiliation. And we've seen that this actually has a huge unlock, and most of the Pride members that we've worked with cherish this the most across the entire framework. So actually providing forums for people to get together for educative sessions as well as just for fun sessions, and to provide them informal channels to not just make friends, but also to give them access to senior leaders can actually be a huge unlock for retention as well as unlocking people's talent at the workplace. And complementing this community and affiliation is personal and professional development. So, at BCG, we offer a bespoke mentorship program. So, if you're part of the Pride Network, you get paired with a senior member also from the Pride Network who can actually help you navigate complex situations that you may face in your personal as well as professional lives. And at the very top, there is societal impact. So, we believe diversity is a core value for us at BCG. And we also believe in articulating this in the relevant forums that matter externally. And we do this by working with clients, by doing projects for them. We partner with various international nonprofit organizations. And we also do original thought leadership research to make sure we're having and contributing to the broader LGBTQ movement in society. So that's a Northern Star. Moving on, we've had a whole bunch of activities that have happened in the past 2 years. I won't delve into this in detail in the interest of time, but COVID really did not stop us from actually celebrating and being true to our values. And we found various innovative ways of coming together, of celebrating, of doing research and publishing reports, and also helping organizations externally in the broader LGBTQ movement. So now coming to the ambition, so last year we announced that we would like to reach a 5% Pride share in the workforce by 2025. And from a BCG perspective, this was quite a watershed milestone because we've never gone public with an ambition like this. So this was declared by Germany and Austria office, and it was very, very well received in the media as well as with the clients. So we often talk about how visibility can matter, and actually just simply declaring this publicly and sharing it with the world led to a lot of change movements even within our clients, and we got a lot of inquiries about how clients also can replicate this, and we actually helped a lot of them to formulate their strategy and build their goals as well. So the next thing is we often also get asked, how do you measure this, right? How do you identify how many people identify as LGBTQ? So there's actually two ways of doing it. One is we have an ERG, an employee resource group. So, people who are LGBTQ can sign up to it. So the membership of that itself is a proxy to identify, what percentage of your workforce is LGBTQ. And secondly, there's also a specific survey that is sent out, a diversity DE&I survey. And what you see on the right-hand side is actually the split between the LGBTQ community and the non-LGBTQ community across the various designations within the consulting team. So, I won't get into this in detail, but for instance, a JA is a junior associate, a C is a consultant. And we actually send out this survey and people can fill it voluntarily. It's an optional survey. And based on that, we get the second proxy for what our representation truly is. And then lastly, of course, we also do a lot of original research. So, all of this is available on our website as well. So I would strongly encourage you to have a look. But for instance, one of the reports we did last year is called the Outage Work Barometer, where we actually surveyed about 9,000 people across 19 countries to understand what the lived experience of LGBTQ people at the workplace is. And also we investigated what impact being out and providing an inclusive environment has on the productivity and lived experience of the employee, and how this translates to benefits for the company as well. So do have a look at that. We'll be very happy to share links with you. And on that note, just want to end on the last thing, which is, we often talk about LGBTQ discrimination, right? And there's various examples of it, be it insensitive jokes, be it, not some inclusion efforts which are disrespectful, also promoting or assuming certain things about a person's gender. And we can go into this in detail, but I think the overall key message here is that it's very important for us to make sure and be aware of the biases we have and to educate ourselves and to educate the broader community as well on what is acceptable behavior. So, there is an expression we use in BCG called 1,000 daily touch points, which is every interaction that someone has at your workplace should be positive. So it should be free of bias, should be free of presumption, and should be an attempt to make the workplace more inclusive. And on that note, I think I've exceeded my time by 30 seconds, but I will stop there and hand it over back to the moderator in case there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Kushal. So what I wanted to comment is I love your rainbow candles.
Yes.
But on a more professional level, do you see clients following your example already, or other companies following your example?
So the answer is yes, absolutely. I think especially after the Black Lives Matter, globally, there has been an extremely high interest in the DEI topic, also for the LGBTQ community. So, I personally have also done workshops with clients. We do projects with clients as well who want to help become more, diverse, equitable, and inclusive. So I think the short answer is yes. There's a lot more interest. In fact, we've also set up a specific, practice within BCG specifically to address topics in the DEI space.
And there was a second question coming from the audience. Would you recommend, in general, an LGBTQ quote, and would you recommend to mention the LGBT community membership?
Sorry, could you repeat that? The LGBT
Okay,
quote?
so maybe just shorten it down to the first question. Would you, in general, recommend an LGBTQ quote for companies? I think quote. I think by quote they mean Quote in German. So the something like your 5% goal is the percentage goal something that every company should have, for example?
Yeah. So I think that's a very good question, and I think the jury is out on that. It is a philosophical debate with no clear answer. I think the way to look at it is overall the ambition should be to be diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Whether or not you translate that to a number or not is the second question to be addressed. I think especially for us as well at BCG, I think declaring this 5% ambition is not a quota, it's an ambition. And I think that's an important distinction to make. I think what happens is when you set a numerical aspiration, the organization tends to work around it to make it a success. So there is merit in doing that. At the same time, quotas, sort of go into the territory of reservations, which again becomes, a bit of a complex topic. So what I would say is it's good to aspire to a numerical aspiration, but quotas, I think, are a longer discussion to have. And I think the jury is out on that.
Thank you very much, Kushal, for stepping in last minute and delivering such great insight into the studies and your work. And I wish you a wonderful evening. Thank you. Now, it's such a pleasure to be at the live event because at live events you run into wonderful people. So I just happened to run into a wonderful person that I want to introduce to you, and it is Paolo Rondelli. He was until last Friday Capitano Reggente from San Marino. He is the Republic's first ambassador to the United States. Among his previous positions are Director General of the Cultural Institutes of the Republic of San Marino and President of the Rotarians of San Marino, and many, many others. And he will talk together with Annika Sawatzki about politics with impact. Why are firsts important to note? Annika, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Holger. Now I know how to say Reggente. For me, self-determination means being able to live as we are, as I am. Therefore, I think tolerance must be advocated around the world, everywhere. At the Pride parades this year, a lot of people got on the street and stood up for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and against discrimination. However, unfortunately, we have to acknowledge that the topic of sexual orientation is still a taboo in politics, society, but also corporations. Hate and violence against our community, against us, are still everyday life. And to counteract this, I think amongst others, we really need strong role models who publicly stand up and really fight for the cause, for our rights. And I'm now very, very, very pleased to welcome you and to welcome such a role model. It's an honor to have you here live in Cologne, Mr. Paolo Rondelli.
Thank you.
Yeah. You've been elected, as Holger said, as Kapitan Regent for the 6 months mandate, from April 1st to September 30th, last week actually, 2022. Therefore, until a few days ago, you were the very first head of state belonging to the LGBTQI community. And a great achievement, I think, because until 2004, particularly homosexuality was still a punishable offense. How do you look back at that time, the last 6 months? What changed during your time in office regarding LGBTQI?
Well, so thank you for the invitation. First of all, I'm a little bit moved for this invitation because we talked about a little bit before about the importance to be a model, to be out, to give your experience. My country is a tiny country in the middle of the Italian peninsula, and so as you probably know, Catholic religion is something quite present in our society, as an Italian one. The cultural influence. Until 2004, yes, homosexuality was still a punishable crime in my country. We have no clues about the application of this rule, but was still a crime. So that was the first stage. And in the last year, we fight a lot. In the last 4 years, we fight a lot to have a legislation. I was in the committee that was standing for legislation for civil union. Now civil union have exactly the same rights of a wedding, of a marriage, except adoption. That it's still a sensitive issue. Then we reached another goal. Another important goal. Now, since 2019, the prohibition of discrimination for sexual orientation is a constitutional value in San Marino. And during my mandate, we reached 2 other goals in civil rights. I spoke about civil rights, not only LGBT rights, because I think that we have to fight all together for rights, for human rights, for civil rights. I put my signature on an important law just 1 month ago, was the decriminalization of abortion. San Marino was still one of the 3 European countries with Malta and the Holy See where abortion was a crime until a month ago. So I fight for a referendum last year with a group of friends, women. So I was one of the front men, of the few men being in front to fight this battle. And the other one was that starting from 2023, May 17 will be celebrated in San Marino too as the International Day for the fighting of transphobia and homophobia.
What a progress and what a development. How do you think will the situation develop after you left?
Well, we have to fight. We have to fight. We have to fight and be on stage, be always present. and try to have people together to fight. Convince also people that is still in the closet to come out, or in any case to support. I'm the only openly gay in the parliament in my country, the only openly gay. As a colleague asked me months ago, so are you the only one, really? No. So I don't want to know. So stop. I don't want to list. So it's quite important to come out, I think, and to be on stage. I fully agree. We need to do more. We need to do more for legislation about transsexuality that's not regulated in my country. So it's just something that it comes from common law according to practicing. I have some young people that came to me to tell me that they were under transition, so they need to fight this battle. They need rights. They need to be recognized for what they are, but not only for transsexuality. We need also to protect people on working places if they came out, I think, because it's accepted, but not all over.
In your position as a former head of state, you're not just a role model in San Marino, so nationally, but also internationally. What do you think and other countries and policymakers learn from you in San Marino in establishing equal rights and fighting for the cause?
Well, when I was elected, I started to receive hundreds and hundreds of messages on social networks, Instagram, Facebook, from people all over the world, especially young people from countries where homosexuality is still a crime or a source of discrimination. So I tried to support them. And I hope that those countries will learn about how a gay man, an old gay man, can be a good head of state, a good professional, and that his sexual orientation is something that has nothing to do with good politics, good profession, good qualities.
Thanks for sharing your experience. If we look at the IGLA Europe Ranking and Gay Travel Index, I have the feeling that a lot of small countries are among the LGBTQI friendlier or friendliest countries. If you look at Malta, for example, that introduced marriage for all, that prohibit conversion therapy, and also has quite progressive gender laws. What do you think it's easier in smaller countries than in comparison to the bigger ones in Europe or in the world?
No, I don't think so. It depends from country to country. Malta has a quite strange situation. So it's quite open for LGBT movement, but abortion is still a crime, for example. So it depends from the group you are part of. Some small countries maybe are more rapid in changing their legislations if they want, because the levels are very close one to the other. So common people, like in my country, common people can knock the door of the parliament and present every 6 months an official petition, just being a citizen. Also myself, as a common citizen, not as a member of the parliament, every first Sunday of April and first Sunday of October, I can present a petition to the parliament to change something. So it depends from the organization of the country. I don't think that in small countries it's easier. Maybe when the process starts, it could be faster. It could be faster. That's my impression, general impression.
Albert introduced his book Rainbow Generation, and we were talking about how important it is to have role models. If you look at your life, and did you meet someone where you say that was a role model, and why?
Not specifically one person, maybe more than one. One for sure, I met him many, many times when I was ambassador to the US, is former president of the US, Barack Obama. I met him many times, and I don't believe he's always right, but he gave me some suggestions and some inspirations, for example. Another one is Marco Capato, an Italian politician that is fighting for civil rights since ages. He has been also arrested and persecuted a couple of years ago for one of his campaigns. Another one is Emma Bonino, another Italian politician. She has not been re-elected recently to Italian Parliament, but she fought for years for gender equality, abortions, human rights, stop war, and a lot of things. And the other one, this is a private moment, is my partner, because he's always recalling me on the ground. So when I try to go up, and he's always telling me that people is on the ground, so I have to look people. And I think that every person can give you an inspiration.
Thanks for sharing. I really relate to that as well. We have a question coming from the chat relating to your public position. Did you experience any hate or negative situations as an openly gay politician?
Not only as politician, as also civil servants. I lost my job, for example. I consider that sexual orientation was one of the elements for discrimination. I fight, and I won in the court, so I had my job back. And obviously, I had no, this moved me a little bit. So it was a really sad period, because I worked quite seriously in that period. I reached a lot of goals according to my contract, so all the goals were respected, but I lost my job. So my contract was not renewed. So I decided to fight. I decided to fight and not accept the situation. And I think that behind that, sexual orientation was one of the elements. And another time I had, some hate just walking around on the streets, as probably, unfortunately, happens years ago, but not as a politician, just as a member. And recently, but the police is, this fact is under investigation, so I just give you a few elements. I received some text that were against the fact that an openly gay man is not a good person to rule a country.
Thanks for sharing this very personal story, and the highs and also the lows, and for being such a wonderful role model for us, the LGBT community, and everyone, actually. Thank you very much, Mr. Rondelli. It was a pleasure talking to you.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Now, that was an inspiration, but it's one inspiration after the others tonight. And we're following with another one, and I'm warmly welcoming Tessa Ganserer on screen. She's member of the German Parliament and politician in my beautiful hometown of Nuremberg. So big shout out to Nuremberg. For the Green Party, Tessa is committed to a world where nature conservation and social justice come first. Welcome to our panel, Tessa Ganserer. Also on stage, I'm welcoming Sarah Unger. She's Director, Leadership Development, Diversity and Inclusion at Rolls-Royce. Before that, she worked in people development and executive management for ThyssenKrupp. Sarah is also a board member of a diversity working group of a democratic political party in Germany. And I may sit now, Tessa Ganserer and Sarah Unger. Great to have you here on stage. And we are going to talk about what it means to be visible and how you can leverage personal experience to thrive as an LGBTQ plus role model. And Tessa, first question goes to you. Which effects can role models in politics have, especially on young people in our society? What are your experiences there?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, okay. At first, I would apologize. I would really like to be with you tonight in Cologne, but since my last short visit for a shooting date in Cologne last Sunday, I have to struggle with a very severe cold, and now I'm here at home. But to your question, I'm not sure if I'm really good as a role model. I didn't feel brave when I have my coming out. I knew that a huge media hype would await me, but I didn't know if I was emotionally up to it. And if I had been brave, I would have my coming out so much earlier in my life. Nevertheless, I have heard from so many people since my coming out that they find me so courageous, that they think it's great that I'm in politics and that I'm a great role model for them. Now, obviously, it is so, and if I can encourage other people, that's great, because I think that's the best thing politicians should do in general, giving people encourage instead of scaring them. And I can only say for myself that I missed a trans woman right in politics would have said I'm trans, and that's good. That's a good thing. That would have made me so much easier for me, for myself. But now it is like this. And a psychologist told me that he have been waiting for so long time for coming out by a politician. Statistically, that would be long overdue. And now it will be much easier for those after me. I think it's important. We are visibility important for the society, so that sees that we are normal people everywhere in every job. But it's important for young queer peoples too, so they can see that. To be trans or to be queer, it's normal, and you become everything and can achieve everything.
Yeah.
So I think visibility is very important.
Yeah, visibility is the key, and especially also for young people, as Paulo also said before. So there's a very fine line between being
I did not find anyone comparable to me in that time. Yeah? So no one in a management position, especially no one in HR, what is my passion for. And this was quite difficult. I only found one manager working at Microsoft in the US, and this was the only example in economics, in fact. And so I thought, in fact, there was a moment when I could not, and I did not want to wait anymore for anyone else. Yeah, so I thought someone has to be the first mover in this case, and this is then me. And anyway, I was sure that I had to go my own way, yeah, because I did not want to be compared with others. I thought other ways are maybe not comparable to my situation in the time. And anyway, in the business, I was head of HR in that time, so I was in the company, in fact, the person who was anyway in charge for handling such cases, and this made it maybe a little bit easier for me then.
So now you are a huge role models to others. So what was the last experience when someone approached you and shared with you that you are a role model for them and how that helped?
Yeah, I mean, this is a good question. And in fact, I do not like it so much being a role model, because I think my intention was first sharing a positive example that this way of life can work, and like Paolo and also Albert already mentioned, that this is just one part of the life beside others. But of course, this is an initial part of my authenticity, and this belongs to me. And I do not want to be reduced to this, as Tessa also mentioned. Yeah, so I'm not only trans. Yeah, I'm first a human being, second a woman, third maybe someone who studied business economics and has 20 years of experience in HR management and these things. And being trans is maybe one smaller part. Yeah, of course it's a part of my life, but it's not the, let's say, overarching part. And of course, I mean, I wanted to go forward somehow in that time, and this was the reason why I accepted those requests. Like Tessa received many requests from media. I received as well in that time. Because it was a surprise, especially in a very conservative company like ThyssenKrupp with steel plants and all that. Somebody like me coming out as trans. And I thought, I want to go that step forward and sharing this example. And of course, encouraging also other companies and other organizations being positive with people like me or with queer people in general. Yeah, and this, of course, has to do something with the business context. And following this, many people approached me, of course, and wanted to speak with me who were in a similar situation. Some people from media, some people from companies, people who were board members, people who were on TV, and several ones. And many of them told me that they wanted to hide, that they were, of course, aware of who they are, but they wanted to wait for the retirement and these things. And I told them, look, if you know this now and if you think you can still wait 5 years to come out, it won't work. Yeah? And several of them finally came out, and several of them are in public as well.
So what can you mentioned the business perspective. What can you do at Rolls-Royce Power Systems to create an open atmosphere to help people being confident about themselves?
I mean, I think about being visible, of course, being approachable for others, offering support for those ones who need this, and as well giving advice maybe to senior management, for example, how they can deal with, or how they can create, in fact, a more inclusive culture. Yeah? But this covers even more topics than just LGBT plus topics. It's about accessibility, for example, for people with disabilities. It's about encouraging women, for example, in a technological environment like we are working in at Power Systems. And as well, for example, encouraging grassroots initiatives, like lunch meetings and these things, and that these things are spreading around. It does not need a top management decisions that we want. For example, a queer network, it needs people from the baseline, in fact, to set this up, because culture is all of us. Yeah? It's not a single person who shapes culture. Culture, we are all shaping together, and so we need to include everyone in that.
Tessa, with the experiences you made in the past and you're still making today, what's your advice to other professionals, especially, of course, politicians? How can they be role models that really make a difference, that really matter? Is it only about coming out, or are there other things that you can actually actively do in order to be a good role model?
I think it's not so easy because nobody can stand up and say, now I want to be a role model for everyone or for others, for everyone else or others. I think you are or you are not a role model. I find it also difficult to idolize other people. Because we are all human, and I want to try the good one in all people, but people make mistakes too, and so I think it's just important not to resign yourself to injustice, and if you can help other people, it's the best one you can do. Just to fight against injustice and help other people. You haven't do more than this.
Now, let me be the good fairy, and you have one wish free. If you had one wish free for your professional life, Tessa, what would you change in order to be an even better out politician?
Oh my God, if I can change only one thing, I'd rather be anything else but trans, or should I have my coming out much easier, much earlier, because I have been it's so much easier for me in my life. But I think it's wasting time because I can't live my life backward, and I don't want to be anything or anybody else. I am who I am, and I can do that better than everybody, people else in this world. So I think I would be perfect.
I am what I am. Thanks for giving me the Ohrwurm, as we say in German, the song in my ear. Sarah, if you had like one wish that could change something important, what would that wish be?
I mean, I would wish, in fact, to be more resilient regarding all that hate and this stuff which I sometimes read in not only social media, somewhere else as well, and not being so much affected about this when I see this. Yeah, so this is, I mean, not only on social media. Sometimes I received a letter or whatever, which was quite offensive. So really dealing with this and finding a good way how to live with that, or maybe still fighting and getting the power to fight against that.
I have one question regarding that. Is your company, for example, actively helping you in cases like the one you just mentioned?
I mean, fortunately, I do not have these situations and so many times regarding my company, of course, regarding more my political engagement. But I think it was last year when I gave an interview to the Diversity Day to SWR radio station in Baden-Württemberg. Someone sent me a Bible, anonymously to the office, and that person was really putting a lot of work and avoiding fingerprints and all that. So there was a tape on the back to close the envelope, and these things, address was machine written. So someone was really putting a lot of energy in this, making this very anonymous and sending this to the office. And I thought, okay, it's just ordinary, getting these kind of messages, because I was so used with that during the last 10 years. And my manager, Telse, who is now our board member for HR CHRO, or Chief People Officer, she, when I shared that with her, she was really angry and told me how people can do this, and she was really angry, and I just didn't realize until that. So usually, I think I'm still quite lucky, but when I read through the lines on social media, and that really hurts sometimes.
Lucky to have good allies. Now, there's a question from the audience going to you, Tessa. There are some LGBT politicians in the German parliament who are not actively engaged in our topic. Behind the scenes, do they cooperate or fight against you?
In my party, by the Green Party, there are a lot of queer people, and we have divided our topics in so many different cases, and not every other member of the Green Parties of queer, not every other queer politician is so often in the media by their queer topics, but they do a lot of the issues, and we work very good together, I think.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Tessa Gansra, also for being with us. Despite having such a bad cold, I really feel with you. Thanks a lot for being with us today. Also, thank you for being with us, Sarah Unger. Great. Thank you. That applause just doesn't end. It was for you. Now we see a special video message with speakers who can't be with us today. It's Riccardo Simonetti, it's Felicia Mutterer, and it's Jochen Schropp talking to us from the big screen.
I think that role models have been very powerful in my entire life.
Role models managed to inspire me in such a way that I pursue new goals myself.
There was no one on television or in the media that I could identify with.
I was not surrounded by many people that were like me.
I now know what role models mean to other people, because I think some people see me as a role model.
That was something that taught me how important it is to be a public figure that uses their platform.
I am inspired by people who are change makers. Most recently, in 2020, I was so fascinated and inspired by the Angel City Football Club, because it's about more than sport. And when I heard about it, I thought, this is exactly what we need in Germany. And so I got involved and just started to act. With 5 other women, we have taken over a football club, Victoria Berlin.
As a boy, I never saw men or other boys that were embracing their feminine energy the way I would like to do it. I connected a lot to celebrities like Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears, and Paris Hilton. Those were the only people that were constantly criticized, judged based on their looks, based on what they do. And I was thinking that, okay, if they can do and go out and live their lives, I can also do that in school.
In particular, my father inspired me very much growing up. He helped my mother in the household. He always supported her, but eye to eye. By having a father who showed emotions and who wasn't scared of showing emotions, who let me know that you can be sensitive and it's okay to cry, I'm really, really grateful that I had that growing up.
I think as a public figure, you have the responsibility to be honest, to not make your story sound better in order to gain more followers or more respect or acceptance.
When I talk in public or in my podcast, I try to be aware of my role and question it.
To me, being a queer person in media doesn't mean just being queer and visibly queer. It also means to speak up about the difficulties.
I am personable with people that try to interact with me on social media. I try to help them. I try to listen to them.
It is important to me not only to spread my opinion, but also facts.
It's one thing to be a public figure that speaks about certain things on TV, in media, but that may only affect a few people. And that's why I encourage everyone to use their influence.
You have to live the topic, you have to be aware that people are different.
Diversity and inclusion is not a trend, and it shouldn't be treated as a trend.
Don't just use words, but let action take over those words.
Create jobs for people that are aware of those things.
Making sure that everyone in the workplace feels comfortable.
Include people, let them be who they are. Don't tolerate them, but accept them.
It's like a big table. Get as many people on the table as you can.
There's so much more to be done.
Work should be a safe place for people, no matter what skin color they have, sexuality they have, what gender identity they have, what body figure they have.
These people are not weak. They have the power to empower the company.
So in our first panel, we concentrated a bit more on the personal side. In the second panel, we're going to switch strictly to the professional side. And our panelists are Dr. Eva Voss, you see her on screen, Head of Diversity, Inclusion and People Care, Germany and Austria at BNP Paribas. Before joining the bank, she led the New Ways of Working team at Ernst & Young, and worked for several years in different positions and industries as diversity manager. Eva, great to have you with us today.
Hello, everyone.
And I welcome live on stage Dr. Thomas Meyers. He's Chief Governance and Legal Officer of SEAT, SR and Cupra. Previously, he has headed the Volkswagen Group's Global Coordination Department. Prior to joining Volkswagen, he held various leadership positions at Italdesign, MAN Truck and Bus, and GE Healthcare. Thomas began his career at the international law firm Freshfields. He's committed to diversity and LGBTIQ rights in his private and his professional life. Have a seat, please. Welcome. Thank you. Eva, with the title you're having, Head of Diversity, Inclusion and People Care, what is it you can actually do in your company to help people be their true selves? Can you give us a few examples?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much for inviting me and having me here. I would say, regardless of the diversity dimension, we need to follow a holistic D&I approach. And this means for me having 4 parts in mind and all 4 parts at the same time. So let me explore this a little. The first thing is obvious. It's about the processes and the structures. So we have to make sure, for example, that our employer branding or recruiting or hiring strategy in general reflects the diversity that we have in our company or that we would like to achieve in the future. It's about succession planning. It's about how we reward people, how our benefits look like. Do they reflect, for example, rainbow family constellations, etc. Think of how leadership is developed and how pay is distributed. For example, you might know that trans women earn in general 20% less than before that transition. So these things you need to have in mind when you look at the processes and structures. The second part is policy. So every written and unwritten rule within your company has to be reviewed somehow. So look at the guidelines that you have in place that reflect a respectful work environment, your code of conduct, if you have any. Is there an explicit part on LGBT diversity? Or your external commitments like PROUT at Work-Foundation or the German Diversity Charter or other commitments that show on paper, obviously, that you care for diversity. And it goes on with trainings of unconscious bias, supplier diversity, or also diversity surveys. So these two parts, processes and policies, are more on the structural side that we need to address. On the other side is what I would say more the practices. How do we live up to these standards and processes, and also the personal beliefs? Starting with the practices, this would mean, does your leadership position itself for LGBT diversity? For instance, our CHRO walked this year on the Christopher Street Day parade in Cologne to visibly make a sign that top leadership cares for these topics. Or he is part of our diversity next week when it comes to LGBT allyship, etc. So how does your leadership is present and visible on that topic and not just, on paper? Then it's about consequence management. Do you have just diversity statements within your code of conduct, but when it really comes to a conduct case, do you react on this? And there you can see if your company is treating diversity really honestly, or is it just, like pink washing, having some rainbow flags somewhere, or is it really about we take care if there's a misbehavior? Then also having resources, being present as a sponsor or at events of your community. This is also something that I would resume under practices. Do the work in your daily business. And the last part that we need always to approach is this, when it comes to personal beliefs. So do you have a platform in place? And platform is really a general term for every opportunity where you can reflect on your personal unconscious or conscious biases. Do you live up and do you foster a speak up culture? So do you invite people to criticize, to give feedback, to have their opinion stated out loud? Are you sponsoring yourself the diversity dimension? We have heard, for example, earlier that someone can put a small sign in their signature or having a sticker somewhere. So all these parts of your personal commitment should also be addressed. But when you only take one of these 4 pillars, I would say just focus on, having an LGBT network and let them do the job, it's not enough. So we all have to always look at the circle of influence that we have within our organization when it comes to business decisions, HR decisions, how we structure departments, how we create our culture. We always have these 4 pillars in mind in order really to make people feel that they can be themselves at work and not having the burden to make this happen.
Now, I have so many questions regarding the things you said. I'm just a bit afraid that we won't have time for all my questions and the answers. Thomas, I read that someone wrote about you online. They said you created visibility for teams and projects and used that visibility always to promote diversity. So, of course, you in your company also have like a huge tool set and many things you do. Would you say that visibility is probably the most important out of them? And what else do you do at your company to support people coming out or people being open?
Thank you for the question. I'm totally not used to do the hybrid stuff, so I was always looking at the colleague when she was talking, and now you're here, so we're back in normal. I think two questions. The first one that you ask is visibility one of the Best tools, I would say I don't know. I personally think it's very powerful. And why is it powerful? Because just look at the normal situation. I mean, what you now just described is lots of different tools you can use, and all of them will add puzzles to the whole picture. But when it comes to visibility, you have a couple of people who are out, whatever it is. You know, whether it's me as a gay man, trans colleagues who obviously have a much more difficult life than me. I'm privileged. I'm a man, I'm a white gay man. I'm actually in management, so I have a lot of privileges, which other people probably don't have, at least not in this range. But if you have people who are coming out on whatever hierarchy level in the company, it doesn't matter, it could be in the production workers, indirect departments, on a management level, on a top management level, in a board, in a supervisory board. If they talk about it, they can talk about it in their small circle, or they can talk about it maybe in the wider circle. So they are really out, they mention it to also people they don't know, etc. And then these other people also talk about it with them, but they might talk to their teams. They might talk to the board of the company, and the board might say, okay, is that a topic for us? Is that not a topic for us? Some companies are lucky that they have people like Eva and diversity managers or LGBT people organizing something. Others might not have, but I think the more people are out, the easier it is to have this, you know, at the very end of the day, the normality, when we discussed it before, when we have the day that we're no longer talk about the topic. I personally think this will be after I've died, which is probably in 35 to 40 years when that is normal. I'm just saying what I think. But we have to work to get there, that it's normal, and up until then, we need to talk about it, like you said it, every day. And the more people who are out we have, the easier it will get, the more normal it will get, and the more clear it is also for the people at the top of the company. It could also be a university, a government, whatever it would be, the organization, that it's important that they need to address it.
Now, you said on all levels, and we have to encourage people to be out, to be their true selves. And we heard a lot about how we can help people actually to be out. Now, if you look at top management, if you look at the boards and at the supervisory boards of almost all companies I know, I just know very little openly LGBTIQ plus people in boards and supervisory boards. And my guess is, it's not that the ones being in the boards are not out. I think we still have structures where LGBT plus people aren't be let in. Is that something that you would share with me, or would that cost your job?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very complex question. And let me you see, when I look in the upper right-hand side, I'm thinking. To try a simple answer, I think you have a lot of people today. When you say top management, it's, I would say, let's say the board of the company, or the supervisory board, or the Verwaltungsrat in Switzerland, or the board of directors in England, or whatever. I don't think that people really care if the two of us are gay or not, or if Tessa and Sarah are trans colleagues, trans ladies. I don't think they care. They might have, if they have children, they probably have somewhere, the boy comes home and says, oh, my other soccer friend, he's gay, he came out, or some people have a niece who comes out. I don't think they have a problem with it. The question that I always ask myself, and you are now asking me, is why are they not more open to the topic, promoting the topic, or maybe if they are belonging to the LGBT plus community, why are they not coming out? Maybe, and this is just honestly a guess, because it's a complex question that you ask. Maybe it's a little bit a generation thing. Because, I mean, if you get a manager, you're maybe 35, 40. If you get a top manager, you're more like maybe me, I'm turning 52. If you're in the board, you're kind of my age, 50, 40, yeah, actually like 50, 55. You're predominantly male. We've heard about the father who allows emotions. We know a lot of fathers who didn't allow emotions and didn't talk about the complex topics at home. And when you then go to the supervisory board, people might even be older because they need to be super experienced to be supervisory board members. And when you go to the family owners of certain companies, you actually end up with people who are 78 or 80. Which doesn't mean they are bad people. They were just raised in another way than maybe somebody has an attitude today, much more open when you're 35, 30, 45. Maybe I'm wrong with what I'm saying, but I think there is something. And when people are thinking, now let me take the example, I would be 15 years younger, 17 years younger, I would be 35, I might be on the track to become a manager, and I say, do I out myself? I didn't do it before in my example. Do I out myself to you? Maybe you are, I don't know how old you are, 10 years older than me, 45? Okay, good, also good 52. Guess, good guess. You're 45 in my example. And I say, maybe not, because I don't know what you think about it. And maybe you're just on the way to top management or becoming the CEO of that famous Brand 1 company. You always want to become the CEO. And you say, should I out myself to the supervisory board or the owners, or shouldn't I? And we are always assuming things, and I think that's a little bit wrong. We should not assume that they have problems with that. We should just tell them. I had if I may, a quick example. I had very quick, only one. I had a very famous CEO of one of the biggest German and European companies, and I walked into his office and I outed myself to him because he wanted to put a woman into that job. And I said, I fully support that because I'm a big fan of gender diversity, gender equality, women into management, into top management. And I said, you know, in case you don't want a woman but a gay man, you have somebody standing in front of me. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, we didn't really talk the next 3. I didn't get the job, by the way. He took a woman, perfect. We didn't talk the next 3 years. He's no longer the CEO of this really big company. His last day, I wrote him an email and I said, you know, thanks for everything. Maybe we meet next time somewhere. Very short, very short. And he wrote me an email back, first of all calling me by my first name, first time since 7 years, Thomas. Also thanks to you and for promoting diversity and acceptance, tolerance, something he wrote. And I was just thinking by myself, why the didn't you say about this anything in public? Because I think in his entire 7 years, he said 3 sentences about diversity and gender diversity, nothing else. I mean, a huge chance that he missed, actually, maybe I also missed it to follow up with him. But if he would say, I'm the big CEO and I don't give a shit who is whatever, you can come with your true self to work, it would have helped a lot of people. Sorry, a little bit long.
No. So CEOs of this world, you heard it. That's the message you have to deliver. Now, you are really horrible guests because you have so many great things to tell and we have so little time. And there are questions from the audience, and I have a whole set of 10 more questions. So I think we have to stick around for, Eva, you have to stick around for drinks afterwards as well. There's one question coming from the audience. Eva, totally agree that companies have to live up to what they write in policies. How can someone from outside identify that this is the case with a company?
Good question. And there's certainly no single answer. I would say do your research a little, check the website, which would certainly state something about D&I, but check a little bit deeper, like which pictures are used, how maybe are LGBT people getting a voice to be heard on the website themselves. So do they have a platform? But also check like Kununu or other platforms where companies are rated? What do people say who left? So this is also always an interesting insight. And maybe also, LinkedIn is a great platform, for example, to get in touch with people who are already working there. Reach out to the network, reach out to other people, ask them if they can share their insights or what to expect maybe, and also to get more information whether the company truly lives up to these values or not. So really quick answer, I think there are many other ideas that will pop up afterwards, but this is something I would do in the first place.
Thank you, Eva. There's another question going to Tom. You talked about privileges. Why can using one's privileges out executives or allies have helped to push the agenda for equal opportunities?
I think I think the answer lies in the question. If you have a certain privilege, whatever it is. In my case, the privilege is I mentioned one. Let's say I'm male and I don't have maybe a gender pay gap and whatever, at least not in average. And the other one would be I'm a manager or a top manager of the company. And I really think I need to talk about this specific topic. I do totally not care if somebody likes it or doesn't like it. The interesting thing is nobody actually complains about it with me, or if I'm on social media, sometimes I'm a little bit heavy on social media. At the moment, I'm rather light on social media. People don't really come to me, but they also don't really come to me to discuss the topic, which is also, for me, sometimes a question mark. But I think you need to use it, you need to work on it, you need to, what you just said, Eva, you need to also make sure that people, if they have a topic, they can come to you, and actually a couple of people come to me from time to time, not super often, I would say once a month, in order to discuss something. And I think you need to do that, because otherwise you don't really deserve your, whatever the privilege means, you don't deserve it.
So, a one-sentence answer, please, to the last question. Whenever, and we saw that in social media discussions before, whenever we talk about things, well, all the topics we're talking about today, there's always someone criticizing or even being angry. And my guess is it's the same in an organization like your organizations. So what are the answers you are giving people when, for example, saying, hey, why again support these gay people? Don't they have enough support already out there? So what would be your short answer to that, Tom?
I love your question, because I've received that question not long ago from a very, 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 very high Chief Human Resources Officer, or whatever it's called, CHRO. And why does everybody need to say who they are? And that's a difficult question, I have to admit. And I said, the thing is not that people have to say what they are. The thing is, we as a company or as an organization need to show that we see those people. That we see those, my sentence is not at the end yet. That we see those people, and we need to give appreciation. You're valued, you're something in addition, you help, you're more innovative in our transformation, etc. And then you need to give facts and data, what we also discussed today. And let me take the very quick math on Volkswagen. 670,000 people, more or less, somewhere between 5 and 10% of LGBT group, community. I'm taking 7, I'm getting to 45,000 people. And then you need to throw the number to the head of the one who's asking that. This is in my example. You can have another example with other figures. And then you need to say, you need to show those 45,000 people, or up to 45,000 people, that you know you're there, you appreciate them. Please don't hide. Put your energy in the right place and not in hiding, etc. Full stop.
Great answer. Eva, also a one-sentence answer that you would usually give to that person.
I think it depends. You have seen on LinkedIn one of these comments you've mentioned, and I don't waste a lot of time anymore in trolls or any hardliner, because this is really a waste of time. We won't change their mindset. You have seen this comment. He didn't even want to reflect his position. Where I put energy in is the majority of people who are indifferent, who, as Tom said, don't care, in fact, but have these assumption that it's enough now to talk about LGBT diversity. There I put some effort in and try to make a change perspective on how this affects people, how hard it must be to explain every time whether you are in a gay relationship or have a rainbow family, etc., and what it does to your feelings, to your family, if this constellation, if your life is always questioned, and sometimes not even questioned, but other things. And we need to step up, we need to use our voice, and we need to use our voice to share this voice with the LGBT community in order to let them speak what they need and what others can do to support them. So I think this is a mix of being a strong ally, being a visible ally too, and also making sure that the community itself is heard and that they have, as Tom said, the visibility within the company and also their families, that they are our colleagues, our friends, and that it's only good that if we have this opportunity to live up together to these values our companies praise, that we have our share in it.
Thank you very much for that one sentence, Eva, and thank you very much for being that really, really lively and great panel, Dr. Eva Voss and Dr. Thomas Meyers. Thank you for having me. And now we're coming to our last keynote. And I'd like to cordially welcome Anastasia Bifang, head of unit KDOCIR. There are so many things that I really don't know what I'm saying. Actually, you have to explain that to me. With the German Armed Forces. In 2017, she became the first openly trans battalion commander. I understand that. And we'll talk about being a role model in action, how to stand up for yourself. Anastasia Bifang, please.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Somebody told me there's a timer running. There is not, so you'll have to bear with me the next 20 to 45 minutes. But hey, you said, thank you very much. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, we talked so much about role models tonight, and we heard so many things, and I actually don't know what to add anymore, but maybe a unique perspective, and as I say, from a unicorn in camouflage. I did pick that title myself because if you envision uniform, I mean, the reason for having uniform is to basically take out all the differences. And this is what armed forces generally do. You wear a uniform, you make people look the same to the outside. So how can you be a queer and visible person in an institution like that? That's one part. And the other thing I like to do, maybe in the first 1 or 2 minutes, set the stage of how does actually queerness and armed forces go hand in hand? And actually, do they go hand in hand? I'm not going to ask the question if anybody here served ever in the military. I was drafted in 1994. I came out in 2015 as a trans woman. That's 21 years in service in the German Armed Forces, 21 years not being openly out who I am, but knowing that I was trans roughly around the age when I was 17 or 18. So the question also is, that comes up to, why the hell did it take you so long to reach to the point where you can say, this is who I am? And then how can you go from there and being a role model? And I think the first part of the answer lies there. The absence of role models, for one thing, did not help me to achieve a path of self-identification, determination with my own identity within my career path. I mean, I did struggle a lot with my personal life as well, but the armed forces, they were a major part of my life. And being a soldier was part of my identity, probably just as much as being trans is part of my identity. So that struggle I had to overcome. In 1994, I was drafted into the armed forces. In 1994, the German armed forces still openly and by executive decree of the Ministry of Defense discriminated actively against open homosexual soldiers in the armed forces. They were not promoted, they were taken out of leadership positions, they were not prolonged in their course of duty. This was done actively, knowingly, and we wrote it down. This decree was from 1984. And only by a decision of a former minister in the Bundestag, it was tossed overboard in the year 2000, by the way, against the advice of the military leadership. In 2000, we still said, we have to adhere to that policy, otherwise the armed forces will not be functionable anymore as a defense force. That is the environment I came in, and then trying to be all that I can be, trying to be myself, and you can't. And you look around and you see everything uniform, but you don't find queer people. I came out in 2015, not courageously, but suffering my own struggle, in my own emotional low point of life, where I just thought there's no other way to move forward for myself. So the idea of having a career in the army, in the armed forces, suddenly was secondary to actually appreciating myself. That was the starting point of the road to discovery, and then suddenly becoming a role model. And actually, I think we heard that about a lot. I didn't want to have the stamp of being the trans officer in the German armed forces. I have that, and up to now, I probably appreciate it a lot. But in 2015, I just wanted to get through my transition. I just wanted to be Anastasia, and that's all I wanted to be. But I didn't know how to. And on day 2, after I came out, I suddenly found out that the armed forces also didn't know how to help me, how to support me in my transition. There was nothing, which was weird. I did know kinda that I was not the first transsexual soldier in the armed forces, in the history of the armed forces. I did know that I was not. We have regulations and rules and policies for everything, but how to support somebody in their transition, nobody knew. Nobody knew how to help me, how to move forward, or what it would mean. I was again left alone, and on day 2, I was suddenly the expert on transgender identity and transition. This is not very helpful, actually, but of course, he set the stage for things. And then this was my own motivation, my own call to, oh, there really is a timer, my own call to arms to move forward. And so, by accident and by absence of role models, I thought visibility is the key to success in this way. I need to give the community and the people after me a voice and something they can orient to, because they should not wait 20 years or 15 years in their own career path to be out and proud and to actually be themselves. And this was then the first time I realized it's important to be visible. It has its costs, of course. It definitely has its costs. I'm always known as the first transgender commander of the German Armed Forces, battalion commander. But being the first also is possible that you actually start shaping an environment. You can actively drive policies. And this is what I learned fast, that being a role model is actually not that far away from my own actual task as an officer, to be a leader, to lead and pave ways or travel roads that nobody has traveled before. So it actually goes hand in hand. And then you look around and you wonder, why an institution that is built on leadership, on people that should courageously go forward in every instant of life, in aspects, in scenarios where people don't want to move forward, are so scared to not move forward in aspects of queerness or gender identity. And this is what I realized then suddenly, that being a role model also means to be a good leader. And if I embraced all the aspects of my leadership capabilities and abilities and transfer that into the aspect of being a role model, I can actually go and shape an environment and make it better. And hopefully inspire others to come as well, but also to drive policies. I don't have to do it alone anymore. But I don't want to end too much on a high note. If I still look back in today's German armed forces, we have what you would probably call in institutions or in your company something like probably board members, our generals, admirals. We have roughly around 200. None of them are gay. None. Means two things. Either the policy that was installed in the 80s was highly successful to root out every gay person in the armed forces, or they still learned that even today being openly gay might not be suitable or in terms of progressive for their own career path. So it actually does need more people to change that mindset, to bring forward and say, I am here, I'm queer, I'm proud and loud, and I will not take it sitting down. Thank you very much.
All yours, the applause.
Thank you
all
very
yours. I loved it that you compared being a role model with being a leader. It was a new thought for me today, and it was one that I really love. I'll have to think more about that. I can do that while you answer the question from the audience. Anastasia, how do you cope with negative talks and haters from your past military colleagues?
I don't. Sometimes I cry, sometimes I lash out, sometimes I write, commentaries back. Mainly, though, it inspires me to be even more visible and to be more outspoken. I mean, that's the only thing you can do. Turn hate into a positive energy for yourself and try to make something good out of it.
So you mentioned that in the, now I know what KDO stands for, it's commando, right?
Very correct.
Sorry, you said that you don't know of anyone being in the Army's leadership team, if I may call that, being openly gay.
No, I said that, well, we do know, but they're not out openly.
What about other countries' armies? Did you somehow find out or receive feedback from other countries, like, I don't know, Sweden's army saying, hey, we have that trans battalion?
Trans battalion will be a fun thing to have. I'd probably like to lead that as well. No, actually, if you look around, especially, there was a talk I did, it was called Critical Thinking Impact with the Canadian Embassy, and they invited a highly ranking 2-star general who's openly gay, who's also, by the way, not head of the diversity and inclusion department, who just happens to be gay and is a great leader and a 2-star general, but he's openly and outspoken about that. And that is also something that I think is important, that being out and openly still does not mean that you now suddenly have to work in the D&I section. I don't want to do that. I love doing what I do. I love cyber warfare, but I do it in a very queer way.
Okay. Now, I do something that I hate. I give the last words to someone from the audience, but there's this one sentence, and it's actually so true. It says, thank you to all speakers, but especially to Anastasia, being a leader and being a role model, but everybody else as well. As being basically the same is exactly right, being a leader and a role model. You are a true lighthouse, Anastasia, and you were true lighthouses, all the other speakers. It was a pleasure having you here on stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So Annika and Jochen, your time up on stage, and I'm leaving. Bye. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you very much, Holger. Thanks for leading us, guiding us through this fantastic evening. Actually, I also wanted to pick up this point about leader and role models. And it makes me also maybe a bit more on the critical side. It shows that many of our leaders maybe are too weak and not courageous enough, because if they were strong enough, we would have more allies, we would have more open, gay, bisexual, whatever people, leaders, who can act as role models then as well. So I think that's indeed something very important we need to further dig into. I found the discussions super inspiring and exciting. Sitting there in the back for the last 2 hours and really enjoying the evening. Many thanks to our speakers on the screen, but especially here in the room for coming also to Cologne, joining us here. And also big thanks to our guests. Again, both in the room, on the screens, at home, in the offices. It's great that you joined us this year. I'm looking forward to next year. Really enjoyed the evening, really looking already forward to the evening here in Cologne and to next year's discussions. And over to you, Annika.
Thank you, Jochen. Thank you very much also from my side. I have to say I'm a bit speechless about what happened today. Thanks for sharing your perspectives and thanks for sharing your personal stories. Thanks for sharing your vulnerabilities and thanks for being the way you are. I think it was fabulous. I learned a lot. I can just truly say for me, it was a great experience and I'm just so happy that I was here and that I could hear all your stories. Thank you very much, Holger, for leading us through. Thank you, Proud at Work, for being our partner again. And thank you, Jochen, because I was a junior PL when I came up with this blurry idea of doing this event, and I just called you up and you said, yes, we do this, and I didn't believe it. And the next day I had a call in my calendar and the machine kept rolling. And we started as you say, tradition. It's Brauchtum now, and I can only say thank you very much, everyone who made this possible. We have to say goodbye now to the guests at the screens. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Have a wonderful day, and hope to see you soon again, wherever. Thank you.
Thank you.